Welcome to week 2. Here we will focus on the extent to which international human rights law is able to protect Indigenous peoples' ways of life. Specifically, we will examine the way in which the right to property has been interpreted by regional human rights courts. As we have learned in the video from Course 1 Week 3, Indigenous peoples' lives tend to be very closely linked to the lands or seas that they inhabit. In that week, we met Tiuri from the Kayapo people, who told us her people's lands are integral to their existence as a people. If you haven't taken Course 1 yet, this would be an excellent time to do so you can catch up with Tiuri's story. This week, we shall hear from her again. Her story is one that is echoed up and down the Americas and indeed beyond.
We are Kayapo, as I said before. My people have lived on our lands for as long as time. Our land is our way of being, in our way of life. Without our lands, we will not survive. Our traditions are our ways of life, in our lives of spirits in the forests and the rivers that we live alongside will all die. It is so important that we preserve our livelihood for our children and their children in all future generations. The problem is our national government doesn't seem to care about us or our way of life and the rights that we have to our lands. It gives permission to individuals and businesses to deforest our lands in order to make a way for cattle ranching, agribusinesses, mining activities, and logging. We do not have a say in this. Huge machines or armed invaders just turn up and start tearing down all the trees and killing the animals and insects. This environmental destruction is like killing us as a people, as well as the forest and spirits. No one has come to ask us what we think about these developments, and certainly no one has suggested that we should be entitled to any of the income that might be generated from them. The government and businesses treat us as if we simply didn't exist.
This week, we shall see how some Indigenous peoples have begun to fight back, using international human rights law to protect their ways of life. Specifically, they base their claims on the right to property, a right which is traditionally associated with capitalism, where the owners of lands, typically an individual or company, is entitled to derive profit from those lands. So how was it possible for Indigenous peoples to deploy this right to assert their ways of life? Next week, we will examine the impact of the pandemic on human rights.